All information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider your individual circumstances. You should consider the appropriateness of this information with regards to your individual objectives, financial situation, and needs. Welcome to Sharing More Than the Sheets, a podcast to help you and your partner make better financial and lifestyle decisions so that you can both focus on the things that you love. I'm your host, Michael Khouri, financial planner, green thumb, husband, and just dad. This segment is called Michael's Magic Moment. It's my opportunity to play a little snippet from one of our previous episodes, which resonated with our listeners, that I received feedback from, or I felt really had an impact on some people's lives. Hope you enjoy. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about a topic that can be sensitive to some. As an advisor, I'm constantly contacted by people that want to do better with their money. So whether it's budgeting, investing, or just general overall financial planning. But an issue that they have is that their partner isn't on board. Now, this could be in some cases because their partner just doesn't want to fix anything, or they don't want to improve. They don't see it as a concern because they feel like they're doing really well. Sometimes it could be because they've had a bad experience with a financial advisor, or they know someone that has. And sometimes it can just be a matter of priorities. Some people say they're too busy. I heard a saying a very long time ago that it's not a matter of time, it's a matter of priorities. So no one's ever too busy to look at their finances and worry about their money and make sure, and to make sure that they are doing the right thing and that their family have a solid financial future. And sometimes there could be other issues as well underlying, because generally speaking, money is a sensitive topic. But either way, this episode today, I wanted to record it to address some of these things, because if you're in a relationship, you could probably relate that one of you sometimes better at managing money than the other. Or maybe one of you loves talking about money and maybe the other person doesn't. So I'm going to be providing some tips and some strategies to help get your partner engaged with this whole thing called money. Now, the first thing to do is to acknowledge that money can be a sensitive topic, and some people feel perfectly comfortable talking about their finances, whether it's to their next door neighbor or whether it's to, their financial advisor or their children or partner. But some people are not comfortable talking about money. Like, it's just one of those things that they never talked about growing up. So just the thought of discussing money makes them feel uncomfortable. So knowing this, you need to approach things differently and not treat it like there's something wrong with the other person. You just need to deal with it differently, essentially. The other thing as well is to just make sure that you are both on the same page as far as your goals and dreams are concerned. And this really helps, because if one person's goal is to build a investment portfolio and retire in 10 years, and the other person's goal is to just buy a dream, build their dream house, have a massive mortgage and retire in 40 years, then it's really important to make sure that you are both aware of this and that you talk about your goals and dreams and that you are on the same page and that you can at least discuss these things together and prioritize what you want to work towards. That will create motivation, and that will essentially make you both feel like you're on the same journey together. Whereas if one person's on one journey, one person's on another, it's going to be very hard for both of you to even start looking at these things. And it can, as I said, sometimes cause two people to get very discouraged and not really want to deal with it. The other thing is to make sure that you both really understand how important it is. Now, I've talked before about this she'll be right attitude. And the issue with that is when you've got the she'll be right attitude and you think that, she'll be right, it's probably one of the worst things you can do. And I've related it to health before when I've talked about it, but just ignoring money issues is like ignoring health issues. Eventually, you can't just keep ignoring it, and she may not always be right. So that's the second part. The other thing as well is when it comes to money, is making sure that you focus on things that you both enjoy as well. Like, leave room for fun. Now, because as an example, I'll meet a couple sometimes where the person that was reluctant to discuss budgeting, turns out they just didn't want to do it because they didn't want to sacrifice their lifestyle. They still wanted to get takeaway a few times a week. They still wanted to go out to dinner. They still wanted to do shopping. And they thought that having a budget meant they couldn't do any of that at all. When really having a budget is the complete opposite. It enables you to do more. And if you can make that clear to your partner as well and just explain that, look, you could still do the things that you enjoy doing, but just with structure or with a plan, which will probably enable them to do more of the things that they love doing anyway in the long run, then it makes it a lot easier. So it just comes down to just really understanding, and this also goes back to being on the same page, but it's also about making sure that your partner understands what you're trying to achieve and that they can, and what they can still do. And this helps also with obviously asking them what their concerns are and why they don't want to talk about it or why they don't want to see someone, instead of assuming. Another thing is to focus on the benefits. So, I've talked about this in many previous episodes, but the benefit of budgeting, the benefit of investing, it's, to some people, it's just saving money, but it's not just that. It's about making your life easier, about managing bills easier. Even for those that are super busy, managing bills is sometimes their number one, it's the number one takeaway. It's the number one thing that they look forward to when it comes to budgeting. Another benefit could be retiring sooner, spending more time with grandkids in the future, quitting that really high paying job that you hate to settle for something that pays you half as much, but you still enjoy, that you enjoy even more. So working because you want to, not because you have to. And sometimes this helps a lot when you look at other examples, when you talk about different scenarios, like an advisor can help you with these things. It sometimes helps to look at other people as examples, but that can also cause more problems, because when you compare yourself to other couples, it's not fair, because some people could be earning more money than you, some people could have started sooner than you, and that could sometimes create discouragement, which is what we don't want. But as an advisor, we can give you examples as to other, when we've seen other couples in your similar situation, and we can actually show you, look, this is what's happened. This is the outcome. This is where they were. This is what they worked on, and this is where they are now. And that creates encouragement, and that creates excitement, and the urge to want to make change and to do better. Because let's be honest, sometimes any issues, but especially money issues, sometimes you can't see the light at the other end, or you just can't imagine it being better. So it does take seeing an example to be like, wow, okay, well, look, if they could do it, then we can do it. Instead of thinking, I don't earn enough money, or, I didn't come from a rich background, or our expenses are too high, or we've got too many kids, or our mortgage is too big, we can't do all that. So move away these barriers, remove them, and just try to work on the end goal. Part of this is being willing to compromise, and this is a big one. This is a big one, because you can't, there's a saying I heard a while ago, which is, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And when I first heard it, I was like, it was from a friend called Ron. This was years ago. And Ronnie said it. He goes, Michael, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And I was like, what do you mean? And then he explained it to me, and I was like, oh, okay, well, obviously it's a saying that everyone else has been using except for me. But now I use it all the time. But you can't have your cake and eat it too. And what I mean by that is, you can't keep doing the flashy things. You can't keep spending the money on things that you want to spend money on, and still expect to have all these extra things. Like there's only so much pie, if that makes sense. So you do need to be willing to compromise. And sometimes that can be saying, well, look, you know what? Instead of $400 a week on eating out, let's make it $200. If we, in the other part of that is both agreeing to that compromise and being on the same page, instead of just one partner saying it and the other person just shrugging their shoulders or just agreeing for the sake of it. So you both need to be on the same page and look, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're willing to compromise, because these are our goals, and this is what we really, really want to work towards. And as an advisor, we facilitate that conversation sometimes, and we can help you with that as well. Part of this process, and part of really any process when it comes to any relationship, is to be respectful to each other and timely, in that you need to respect the other person's feelings. You need to respect how they feel. You need to respect the fact that they don't care about the same things that you care about. You need to also respect the fact that, as an advisor, we're not miracle workers, and neither are you. And whatever you want to achieve is going to take time. But with proper planning, and once you actually see these things, once you start seeing them, once you start achieving milestones, it definitely makes it a lot easier, but you need to just understand that it takes time, and that nothing happens overnight. So with these in mind as well, if you are respectful, if you plan things out, whether it's with an advisor or whether you do it yourselves, it's a lot easier to stay on track, because you could see milestones, you can see where you're going, you can see, look, we're not going to have this money for this holiday saved up in 2 weeks or 2 months. It's going to take 7 months, but it's almost guaranteed to happen as long as we do X, Y, and Z. So with these things in mind as well, it's important to also have that discussion and to keep that open dialogue there, and that's probably the most important thing. Many times I see couples where they know that money is an issue, or they know they're doing okay, but they should be doing better, but they just don't talk about it. They put it off. They ignore it. And having that discussion, you would be so surprised how much of a difference it makes. Lastly, one of the most effective ways to manage this whole process is to set periods, or to lock times or tasks in your diary. For example, you might say, look, this is what we've agreed on. This is what we're going to work on. Let's catch up every Saturday. Let's discuss this every Saturday. Well, once a month, let's sit down at the start of every month and see how we are. See if we're on track. This will help, because by doing this, you'll be able to celebrate your wins together, and you'll also be able to realize if you're falling behind and and then from there, you'd need to discuss what you need to do to get back on track. So by regularly organizing these catch-ups or these discussions, we'll say, as it could be once a month, or it could be once a fortnight, even if it's for 30 seconds, but just checking if you're on track, checking how things are going, seeing how you both feel about the process, this is an invaluable and underrated way to manage your journey towards a goal. Because it's very easy to set goals. It's very easy to agree to things. It's very easy to get excited at the start. But what's hard is sticking to it and staying motivated and making sure that you're on track. As an advisor, we obviously help with these things. We're there to, if you'd contact us if you ever had any issues or questions, and if things aren't going well, the whole point is to contact your advisor and be like, hey, look, things aren't working out. We need to reassess this. It might turn out you're not putting enough money into an account, or you've committed to investing too much every month, or not enough, whatever it may be. All this helps. Having an outsider's perspective helps, like an advisor, but even doing it yourself helps, and just having these discussions, because that also creates accountability, as I've talked about many times before. So I hope these tips have helped. Again, as I said, it's very common in many relationships for a person to be a lot more motivated than the other, and that's okay. It's just about working together as a couple so that you can do better, be better, and feel better. Thanks for joining us on Sharing More Than the Sheets. Please make sure you subscribe to be updated with future episode releases, and feel free to share this episode with any friends or family that you think it might benefit. Please visit us at sharingmorethanthesheets.com.au to submit questions or requests for future podcast topics. These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au.